Okay, welcome back. Early May 1853, we passed turn, and as we left off, Omar Pasha was sent to basically conduct a kind of running campaign south into Varna, Rumelia, Adrianople, then into Constantinople. He got as far as Adrianople, of course. Now, as you can see, we can have a quick look through the kind of various engagements that took place. The first engagement there was in Rumelia against Gorchakov's force. We gained one national morale point from that. We slammed into a force of about 60,000, mixed kind of force, and yeah, it was a win. 1,500 prisoners. We suffer 8,500 casualties to 12,000 of theirs, and yeah, nicely in the bag. One round of combat. Gorchakov appears to have broken off quite quickly. Following on fast, well, I should say, the fleet in the Bosporus, or the Sea of Marmara, also shelled von Luder's force, so we are getting a picture of what's happened. This guard corps, I'm wondering if it was the original guard corps that was besieging Trebizond last year, which suggests that a portion of this force may have been moved over from the southern Caucasus, kind of was transported by sea during kind of difficult weather. But anyway, von Luder is a new commander, so he might have been moved from the north somewhere, or Poland or somewhere in the interior. So we are seeing, I think, some new forces here. Now, Constantinople, there's no risk at all of Constantinople falling, but here's the rub. Whilst Constantinople is besieged, and the city kind of, it disrupts communications, and it does have a seriously detrimental effect on our economy. We can't have a Russian force of 30, 40, 50,000 troops sitting outside Constantinople. But anyway, that force has been shelled. It's low on supplies. At Edirne, or Adrianople, which is where Omar Pasha is now, he engaged in a second battle. Von Luder's gets a march to the sound of the guns effect, even though it's one round of combat, bewilderingly. And again, it's another kind of hands down defeat for the Russians. 3,200 prisoners, and they lose about 5,000 men. We lose 2,000 basically. So again, they're fairly quick engagements. The Russians are breaking off. Bewilderingly, Gorchakov's force, which we defeated, I think fell back into Adrianople and then somehow sort of fell back up into Rumelia. I suppose kind of battles can unfold like that in a rather confusing way. So that means we have a defeated army corps under Gorchakov to the north, sitting in Rumelia, and to the south we have von Luder's corps besieging Constantinople. To that end, Omar Pasha is ready to rock and roll, offensive posture, attack at all costs. He's going to be moving into Constantinople. That's 2 days. Then from there, he's going to double back and head into Rumelia. That's going to take 8 days. The plan is for Ismail Pasha's army corps to sit tight in Varna on offensive posture. That means anything that's defeated there falls back into Varna. Bang, we've got Ismail Pasha waiting with the kind of net open. And if he engages in a round of combat, or in anything more than a round of combat, Omar Pasha, who's in Rumelia, will be able to march to the sound of the guns and support him in Varna. So that, if it comes off, may destroy these Russian forces. As long as Omar Pasha isn't defeated, and so far he has not been defeated in a single engagement, I'm touching wood. The idea is, after successive defeats, these Russian forces are going to be exhausted. I'm hoping that we're going to be looking at wholesale surrenders. They fall back, best case, into kind of Varna. We'll see what happens. Of course, it may not pan out like that. They may fall into Thracia or Plovdiv or something like that. But anyway, that's the plan. Sort of, again, a kind of blitzkrieg style kind of motion. I know it's not that period of warfare or anything like that, but you get the idea. He's got the support of the Imperial fleet sitting in the Sea of Marmara. Starting to run low on ammunition, supplies a bit now, so we're going to have them there for this fortnight only. Late May, we're going to pop these boys back into the kind of the big military kind of base we've got in Constantinople. Incidentally, not all harbours are the same, even with numbers. They have different characteristics. You can pay to have them upgraded, and I think our only military port is naval base is the word I'm thinking of, is Constantinople. We're going to look to increase that, incidentally. That's only a size 6. We're going to look to increase that to a 9 or a 10, something kind of, turn it to a big, modern. Let's have a look at Portsmouth. Yeah, so Portsmouth is 13, right, okay, yeah. Or Southampton, although in reality it would have been Portsmouth in the mid-19th century, but anyway, it was adjacent to Southampton, so that's fine. But, yeah, that's pretty much the plan of the West. That's our move set. There's nothing else to add to that. The only other thing, which is interesting, is that throughout the entire winter and latter part of last summer, our aim, of course, was to try and get the Russians in a situation where they just had no supplies. The fact that these Russians look stalled makes me think that we might have actually done it, taking Plevna. They just might not have enough supplies now to move. I mean, they're surrounded by... The weather is calming down in the Balkan Peninsula and elsewhere, but these Russian forces aren't moving. My thinking was that they would make some kind of desperate move towards Sofia, make a play for Sofia. They haven't done that, so yeah, sort of dots to be connected, etc. It may be that we've kind of pulled that off. I mean, these are kind of army-sized forces on the surface. They're not really. They're about 40,000 men each, but I don't know how big this force is. I think the kind of fall of Plevna may have kind of cut them loose in terms of supply. They can only carry a certain amount of supply, and constantly moving around the same areas, which they've done, it's just depleted they can't pillage it anymore, I guess. Anyway, we'll see what happens there, but that's the feeling I'm getting. That may have incidentally been what kind of compelled the Russians to make this move. It may have been the fact that the force in Agosta was just about to run out of supplies, and this was a last throw of the dice. They might have bought any kind of forces they had in Crimea, in the Caucasus, maybe from Rostov or something like that, and they just made a kind of snap decision to land a force, Eastern Balkan Peninsula, again, make a big surge with what they had at their disposal towards Constantinople, and then that takes the pressure off forces that are completely out of supply. Of course, those forces, they can't see any way out, really, unless... I mean, how are they going to move crazy long distances if they are out of supply? They've been sitting there for a month, and they didn't have a lot of supply when they were last engaged. I think some of the force maybe broke off, got into Plevna, was destroyed when we took Plevna. Some of the forces, I think Gorchakov was originally with that command. I don't know. It's messy. But anyway, this is a combination of some forces that snuck through Plevna when Omar Pasha was kind of guard down his reorganizing, and also I think it's mostly forces that have been landed. So that's the deal in the west. That's what we're going to do. There's a fairly decent French force. It says Brigade of Marines, and yet when I look at it, I look at the kind of combat value. I think there's more forces there. I don't know. Omar Pasha's army. Oh no, okay. So this French force is in Adrianople. It's not in Gallipoli. It looks like it's in Gallipoli, but anyway. Okay. The raiding fleet in the Mediterranean trade box is going to be heading back to Smyrna. It needs supplies, it needs rest and recuperation, and we're going to give them until, I guess, early June. Give them a month, something like that. This irritating raiding force that managed to pull off a very sudden and surprise capture of a depot and fortress in sort of southeastern Anatolia is moving north. We have got a cavalry brigade that we're going to head towards Sivas. Sivas is kind of garrisoned now with Bashir bazooks. We're going to set them to hold at all cost, and the idea is we're going to try and kind of we're assuming that force is heading towards Sivas. So we're going to try and kind of there's no point in doing kind of 22 days, I suppose. We just move them to Sivas, why not? Especially if that's the move the Russians make. If they don't, we can kind of we'll head towards Malatia or Malatia. Now, we did detach a cavalry division from Rita Pasha's force under the command of Rashid, Mehmed Rashid, and that force is going to move to help the Bashir bazooks. We've got 3 Bashir bazooks brigades in Diyarbakir, and the idea is obviously we want to take the fort back. And only the Russians seem to have rustled up some kind of fortress garrison for the time being. We just sit there, starve out of supplies, take the fort back, basically. We're going to try and create a bit of defense in depth with our Bashir bazooks. We've got one force moving towards Hakkari, and we've got another force moving south towards Van, and we've got some Bashir bazooks in Batumi. So again, they're designed to fall back if engaged, and they're basically just there really as kind of a set of eyes, kind of reconnaissance, That's it. Let's have a quick look at situation Aden. No change. We can see now that the forces they have at their disposal is more substantial now. We are getting a source of supplies locally, I guess, from the kind of garrison in Sana. But yeah, we're just going to sit tight, hopefully make a move towards us, hope that the march is so long that it kind of exhausts them, it creates this disorganization, and that this will give our force a bit of an advantage on the defensive. But we're just going to sit tight and try and hold Sana for the time being. And that's it. Nothing going on in Libya. Now, our trade is set. We have no admin to conduct. Yeah, we issued a unilateral action to guarantee or to basically support the British. That means that anyone that declares war on Britain will have a casus belli against them. Furthermore, if we don't actually follow through on that, we will lose a huge amount of prestige. So it is a concrete thing. But the idea is it bolsters relations with the British. It shows them that we're a reliable, dependable ally when we want to keep doing that. And also, anyone declares war on Britain in the mid-19th century, it's fine that we as long as it's not sort of, I don't think it doesn't really matter too much. I mean, if it's France, that would be a problem, of course. But I mean, Britain's a sort of hegemon for the time being, so we're not taking any big risks, I don't think, in supporting them. Just scrolling through, seeing if there's anything that I've missed. No, there's not. No, we are seeing some significant economic disruption, and that's principally because obviously there's a huge Russian force sitting outside Constantinople. It means that we can't move goods in and out of the city, and Constantinople is, the most significant industrial centre. It's the only big industrial centre in the empire. So anyway, let's click past turn, I think. Yeah, we're good to go. And fingers crossed this comes off, relieves Constantinople and deals a kind of catastrophic defeat on the Russian force. Even if they fall back up into Bessarabia, I literally just realised that Bessarabia is controlled by the British. Looks like the British are now beginning to conduct their own kind of independent campaign into Russian territory. That's good to see. And my thinking is, this summer, in the east, once we've dealt with that irritating kind of raiding force. That's a good thing with these raiding forces. They do tie up forces, they end up kind of stalling plans. But once we've dealt with that raiding force and recaptured the depot, in fact, we don't even need to wait for that. I think we're going to just we're going to send a Rita Pasha to besiege one of those Russian fortresses in southern Caucasus. I think that's definitely on the cards. And if this comes off, if the Russian force in the eastern Balkan Peninsula is destroyed, I think we'll just send, if these Russian forces here don't move, I think we're just going to send one army corps over there, because if they're out of supplies and they're exhausted, it's not going to take anything to wrap that up. We can send an army corps over there, maybe with a cavalry division to support it, liberate those territories, and those forces will just crumble. Those forces will just surrender en masse. And yeah, we could be looking at kind of big morale point gains on that basis. We'll keep a careful eye on that. And there's a good chance, famous last words, but there's a good chance we, war's over by Christmas. But I am starting to think that we could put it off this year. It doesn't look like it on the surface of it. That's the problem with this war, though. For a long time I've been thinking that. I've kind of thought, well, on the surface, it doesn't look great. You've got Russian forces in the Balkan Peninsula. But again, we're winning all the kind of pitched battles. That is something that, incidentally, is not to be expected in other wars. It's not a super easy game. I think that, if we go to war with Austria, for example, it's a different ballgame. I mean, it's a different ballgame with any kind of more Western European power. Russia does become a bit more kind of technologically developed, a bit more modernised as the century kind of wears on. But Austria, in a weird way, Austria is not as powerful as Russia. It is a weaker country, and yet it's a much more compact country. Its army is only slightly smaller than Russia's, really in the greater scheme of things, and it can much more quickly achieve kind of force concentration. And the Austrian army, battles with the Austrian army would be much more costly. It would be much more touch and go. If this had been running battles with the Austrian army in the Balkan Peninsula, we could have easily have lost half the battles, or a third or more, And that is something that will be on the cards at some point. We will have to fight the Austrian army. If there's one thing that this war is going to give us, it is a staff command of experienced, seasoned generals, which, if Austria makes a move against us before the Risorgimento, before they kind of, the hope is they become embroiled in something in Italy, frankly. That would suit us down to the ground. One thing I should mention, sort of related to that a little bit, is that we are starting to get some decent state revenue through now. And we might start looking to invest 50 state revenue per fortnight. into technology. It's going to be percussion cap muskets, because that is something that, like that Austria is already going to have, Piedmont, Sardinia is already going to have, France and Britain, I think probably are already going to have that. That will open up a range of new kinds of units and this sort of thing. But we are lagging behind. I mean, our army is kind of, I think it's, if you click on the kind of the elements, the regiments, it gives you the kind of broad time period of that style of force, and I think it's 1840s to 1850s. So yeah, we want to kind of like start investing in percussion cap muskets. I don't know why I struggled to say percussion cap muskets, and that it takes time and it's inefficient. Using state money to advance research is not great, but it does add up over a long period of time. For a period of decades, it will kind of start noticing. It will kind of we have to obviously lean this mostly towards military kind of things, new kinds of ordnance and this sort of thing. Ironclads as well. I mean, hope is that by the 1860s we'll be kind of well into the ironclad era, and we already have kind of screw ships. And that's interesting that the Ottoman Empire starts off with a relatively decent navy, not big, but it has quite a few screw ships, and screw ships are very new. I'm trying to think what the first screw ship was. It was a French ship. I can't remember what it's called, but it was, I think, late 1840s or something. I may be wrong there, but I'm sure it's late 1840s. And for the Ottomans to have a handful of screw ships, I don't think it has any screw battleships. I think the battleships are all traditional kind of classical age of sail. I'll have to double check that, but I think a lot of the corvettes, or some of the corvettes and the frigates that we have are screw ships. There's a bit of a reluctance at the moment to invest too much into expanding the navy, because of course it is a period of fairly dramatic change. But the way that the change happens with military things, it is not a kind of gradual hockey stick type. It's kind of bursts. You kind of go through kind of qualitative leaps and then periods of kind of stasis, which is how technology develops in the game more generally anyway. I'm getting the hints from the game engine. You'll notice, possibly even, I don't think I ever really passed turn during peacetime, but the first couple of turns that I passed in 1850, they were like 30, 40 seconds or something, we're 3 years into the game, and you can already see the turn times increasing. This is 1853. Imagine what the turn times are going to be like in 1860, 1870. If we'll be depicting the war in there's I think 1877 war with Russia. I'm going to be sitting here waffling for half an hour or so while the turn time processes. I think it would be almost impossible to depict multiple turns once we get to that late stage of the game, because the game engine, it's a failing at the game really. Getting really good indications of barrages happening here, shelling. Here we go. Oh yes, very nice. 3,300 prisoners we've taken. Okay, yeah, that's good. That's a pretty convincing victory. A whole load of that was in Constantinople. Battle of Constantinople. One round, they broke off. Okay. What's going to happen next? Oh, this is... Are you joking? Okay, they didn't take it. They're trying to take Salonika. Ooh, that was a defeat, okay. 13,000 casualties, that was tough, yeah. Ismail Pasha said, yeah, it looks like the Gorshakov is darting north. That's a shame. One army corps he came up against mixed forces, really. But similar kinds of numbers, But yeah, that's not good. 13,000 casualties, they lose like 3,000 of their own. No, he ain't Ismail Pasha, is he? Oh no, he is Ismail Pasha. He's not Omar Pasha, I should say. Day 8. Nothing more for us then. Yeah, another victory in Rumelia against Luda's force. 6 light cavalry regiments destroyed. We take 4,500 prisoners. We lose 6,000. We'll have 6,000 casualties. Russians lose 7,500. Omar Pasha just absolutely tearing it up. Outstanding. And that's day 10, so he was a bit delayed. I guess the Battle of Constantinople delayed him, took him longer. He was due to arrive there, of course, on day 8. You see, if he had got there on day 8, that would have been perfect. I think he could have had a march to the sound of the guns effect. Omar could have supported Ismail, and we wouldn't have had that kind of that foul up, that kind of egg on our face. But that's okay, you know. I mean, Christ, we can't sort of be too sad about, you know, occasional defeats. It's an army corps size defeat. It's not kind of colossal, but yeah, we'll zero in on that and have a gander and see what's happened. We have to keep in mind now that Omar's been moving. I mean, in admittedly better weather, but he's been, you know, on the move now and fighting for 4 weeks. So my suspicion is his force is not going to be in the best shape. But we'll have a gander. We'll have a look. Also, he moved through Constantinople quite quickly, so I don't know how much military control he would have given Constantinople. But then the garrison there will anyway, so that's no sort of it's no big deal really. And our capital is now at a level where we could start looking at building a couple of structures, maybe 2 in one turn. We'll see. I mean, I think this is the old figure. I may be wrong. I think once. There we go. Yeah, 600 state revenue. Okay, nice. Are you joking? They've still got a force there? How? Ahmed, that's his Pasha. We have a new. Why do we have a new lieutenant general? Does that mean one of these guys died? Constitutional reform of 1876. Well, it's not 1876 yet, but okay, we'll take it. Yeah, I don't know if that's a buggy thing or what that is, but yeah, whatever, fine. Maybe it's because we met some kind of criteria vis-a-vis industrial development or something like that it's kind of triggered this a bit early. Okay, sure. Now we need to know why this guy spawned. Also, why the hell is there still a Russian force outside Constantinople? Really irritating. We have full military control there, so I don't think it's anything to be seriously worried about. But see, this is a moment where it would be rather nice to have a very small mobile force, wouldn't it? Like a division-sized force. That's food for thought. Okay, he's 1 day away. The force is looking pretty shattered. I think we'll drop Ismail Pasha. Let's have a look at our reports. Okay, so that's the random constitutional reform of 1876. It's happened 20 years early. Fine. Looks like they failed to take. They failed to take Salonika. Outstanding news. And they're very low on supplies, so yeah. And that's Dmitry Osten-Sakin. And of course they're going for Salonika, they need the supplies, they need the depot. They might have left it too late, or it may have been that they've been marching this entire time, but their force is just so exhausted, or maybe they needed to recover their sort of organisation and cohesion of their force before they kind of did that. Okay, let's have a look for these reports. So that was the barrage of on looters. Yeah, there's no evidence to suggest that any of our commanders have died. That's the independent cavalry division that was commanded by Ismail. Ismail's probably going to be bollocking for that defeat, but anyway, okay. Well, 1 national morale point for lifting the siege at Constantinople. Another national morale point for the follow-up victory at Burgas or Romania. Yeah, I mean, 2 hands down victories for us. We're 1 day away from we're 1 day away from Varna. We may as well push it. 7 days away from Constanza. Should we do it? Let's have a look at the defeat. Let's have a look at that, because that was Gorchakov's force. His force has been defeated by Omar already, but he fell north and gave Ismail a drubbing. Let's have a look at the kind of state of his force. That's the force we lost. No, we lost. It's a pretty small force. What the hell? I said we'd do it. Are you going to be joking with me? There's a Russian force in there. For crying out loud. Oh, we're set to assault post, just so it doesn't matter anyway. They'll attack that force. Omar will attack that force. We'll take Rumelia, then we'll move on to Varna, then we'll move up to Constanta. And that will have to be it. He will definitely need some rest then. I mean, Christ, these forces, yeah, it's already looking pretty disorganised. The Imperial Guard's in slightly better shape, so, yeah, what the hell. He's still activated, let's use it. I'm reluctant to do this, but let's move the Imperial Fleet. 4 days. We're taking some risks here. We're moving really tired forces that have been kind of engaged, you know, but we have to do it. It's the capital, it has to be protected. We have to do what we have to do. Okay. God, for crying out loud. It's unending. How long will it take? 6 days. Alright, let's set him to assault. Brilliant. Oh my god. Led by the Tsar himself. Ooh, Right, Ritsa, earn your money. Defend, hold at all costs. Hopefully. He's got a pretty big force there as well. Yeah, the boss himself has made an appearance. Tsar Alexander, is it? Oh, I beg your pardon. Nikolai. Okay, Nicholas the First, I guess. Yeah, there's no kind of obvious description as to why we've earned an additional. Maybe it's to do with our prestige or something. I wonder what it's determined by. And he's what's called termed a shadow general. So he's basically, yeah, he doesn't have any specific characteristics. I don't think he's a real historical general. He's just someone that has a kind of Ottoman sounding name, and you know, I think anyway. I may be wrong, but anyway. Yeah, the economy's still kind of suffering as a result of all this conflict around Constantinople. Let's just check the economy real quick. That's good enough. We are going to start producing more cattle, I think, now, because I'm sure we started building a cattle ranch, didn't we, down here in Taurus. And that is complete. Not very productive, but we'll be able to get railroads and such down there. Let's have a look at our cattle production. No, I mean, it's sitting. We're basically sort of cattle production is meeting demand. That's fine. We won't kind of push for exports or anything there then. Okay, I think we're going to leave it there for the time being. In late May 1853. What I'll do is I'm going to I'll save the game here. Actually, no, I'll leave the video here, but I'll pass turn. And the next video will pick up in early June, so basically next turn. We can already see the moves that I'm going to be making anyway. I'm not going to kind of be veering from this plan. I'm going to be basically moving Omar Pasha north, up towards Constanta, set to an assault posture, and we're going to be looking to kind of take the fort at Diyarbakir. And yeah, let's see if we can move this brigade. 18 days. So yeah, the moves are kind of set, or at the very least, be a kind of variation on a theme. And in any case, we'll be able to walk, but we'll kind of go through the moves and what happened. We want to kind of keep a careful eye on Salonika. They're obviously making a play for that. We'll see what happens there next turn. Be great if the British or the French do something. Not holding out any hopes. But yeah, so we'll see you next in early June 1853. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.